Hey guys, and welcome to a new mod spotlight for Minecraft version 1.10. Today, we are looking at Tough as Nails. Now, Tough as Nails is authored by the same group that did Biomes of Plenty. So that's Glitch Fiend, A-Dubs, and Forstride. Not necessarily in that order. I think they're all pretty equal team. But it is brought to us by the Bop team. And so we have Bop along with us for this ride because it is pretty good for demonstrating what this mod can do. So, let's jump straight into it, shall we? Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, I would just like to thank Sid from Titanium Gaming Media for introducing me to this mod, because this mod was going to fly straight under my radar, and I think it was going to fly under a lot of people's radars, actually. Because as wonderful and polished as this mod is, it hasn't had a lot of exposure. But we're going to change that today. So, the first thing we're going to look at is the GUI. So the first thing you've probably noticed about the general user interface now is that you have a couple new elements on your heads-up display. You have your thirst gauge over there on the right, the temperature gauge in the middle, and you've lost half your health. This mod, of course, is first and foremost a survival mod. It makes Minecraft survival quite a bit harder. You might say it makes it tough as nails. Yeah. Well, so the first thing we're going to look at is thirst. Thirst, much like hunger, so if I do some running around, you will notice eventually, right, there it goes. You'll notice that the thirst bar and the hunger bar both go down. And if I run around for a little bit longer, you'll now notice that my thirst is at 3. And much like hunger, I cannot sprint anymore. I can double tap all I like, but I cannot sprint. That's because they both work pretty much in the same vein. At 0 thirst, I'll start to take damage, but only in hard and hardcore will you die from dehydration. Now, something very important to note about thirst is, much like hunger, it also has saturation, but in this case it's called hydration. So, you have hunger and saturation, and in the same vein you have thirst and hydration. Hydration is, of course, how much time you have before your thirst starts to deplete, and thirst is your bar. So, how do we get our thirst filled up? How do we quench our thirst? Well, the first thing you'll have at your disposal for doing that, and most likely the first thing anyway, is a canteen. Now, a canteen, an empty canteen, is crafted with 6 leather. So you're going to have to punch some cows, and in the early game where you punch trees and then punch some sheep for some wool to make a bed, the first thing you'll want to add to that list is punch some cows for some leather, because you'll want a canteen. And canteen, simply go to any water source and right click it like you do water bottles, and now you'll be able to take a good old drink. Problem with that is, you've just drunk dirty water. So, much like the hunger debuff, you can also get the thirst debuff, which comes from drinking dirty water. It's like eating raw chicken or zombie flesh. But, of course, you can still get your thirst back, and it's the early game way to do it. You're just going to have to deal with the fact that you are probably going to have the thirst debuff bugging you for a while. So, how do you get clean water in that case? Well, clean water comes a bit later. Once you have your furnace, you can, of course, boil the water, but you can't just boil dirty water. It's still got mud and silt and gross bugs and things in it. So you're going to want to supplement that by creating a filter. Now, filters are, of course, added by the mod, and you create a charcoal filter. So it has to be charcoal. You cannot use coal, so you're going to have to get used to cooking some logs, but you can make some charcoal filters from 3 charcoal and 6 paper. So get those sugar canes growing. A charcoal filter along with a dirty water bottle, will allow you to create filtered water bottle. You're not done yet. You have to boil it. So you can still drink filtered water, which I can't at the moment because I am not thirsty, but it's still just going to treat it like it's dirty water. However, if you put some coal in a furnace and then put your bottle in, you will boil the water. And there we have it, a basic ye olde water bottle. As if in vanilla Minecraft you took a empty water bottle and clicked some water. So, all that to get some clean water. Delicious, but you won't have the thirst debuff. However, it's not your best source of thirst. It's not even your best source of hydration. The best sources of thirst and hydration, let's get some more water bottles, is that you are going to have to start stocking up on sugar, and you're also going to have to start stocking up on other kinds of fruit and vegetable that we have in Minecraft. So, for example, if we take an apple and we put it in a crafting table with some sugar and clean water, you can't do it with any other kind of water, you'll get apple juice. Apple juice is more hydrating and more thirst quenching than basic water. So you're pretty much going to, be processing your water. You're not going to be wanting to drink your water straight. That is, of course, unless you're living in a desert, because the most common kind of juice in the desert is cactus. And much like vanilla, different kinds of juice have different kinds of hydration and different kinds of thirst. Cactus juice is very thirst quenching, but it is not very hydrating. So you probably want to combine drinking cactus juice and water when you're in the desert, for example. And you also have, much like steak is probably your best bet in vanilla, you also have your best bet in tough as nails, and that would probably be the golden apple. Of course, the craftable golden apple. Yes, that is 8 gold, but you do get golden apple juice. Now, this stuff is extremely thirst quenching and extremely hydrating. You would hope so, considering the cost involved. But it's just an example, if we look up juice, of all the things you can get. So you can get apple juice, beetroot, cactus, carrot, chorus, glistening, golden apple juice, golden carrot juice, melon juice, and pumpkin juice. Now, here's my tip to you. Beetroots are very useful now. Very useful indeed. There are a couple of other things that are important to consider when talking about thirst. Potions now, any potion at all, so, anything that you drink from, so I guess not your splash potions or your lingering potions, but any of these potions count towards thirst. Each normal potion, having been that they come from a water bottle, gives you the same amount of thirst and hydration as water, which is, there are numbers, and you can see the numbers if you'd like. I would suggest going and visiting the Tough as Nails wiki for that stuff. But they do quench your thirst. You can also drink milk buckets if you want to. You can take good old milk and drink that. And that will actually increase your thirst, as well as doing the usual of clearing you of any bad, horrible things. So, now that we've talked about thirst, let's talk about the fact that you only have half your health. Oh my god. So, the reason you only have half your health is because you're playing on normal. Now, they do intend to add configs for this, but as of the current version, it is that you have all of your hearts on peaceful, you have 7 of your hearts on easy, you have 5 of your hearts on normal, and so you can tell that this spotlight is taking part on a normal spotlight world. And you have 3 hearts on hard. Brutal. So, with all those hearts missing, is there a way to get them back? There certainly is. Come with me to the mystical land of... Well, it's not very mystical, it's hell, actually. The nether. Let's go. Boy oh boy did we get lucky. This nether portal ended up right on top of a nether fortress, which is exactly where you need to go to get your hearts back. You'll notice I'm in creative mode. But let's fly around here and look for one of those really terrible nether chests. I mean, the loot in the nether generally isn't bad, but now you're going to want to really hunt them down, because in them, if we get lucky, or if you're supremely unlucky and all your luck runs out because your nether portal started on a nether fortress, you have to go find another one. Because, as I showed you in the end of the last cut, some chests don't have it, but some do. Now, I'm in survival mode, and you'll notice that I'm cooking here. I do have something on me that's protecting me, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But more importantly, in this chest we have a lifeblood crystal. Crunching one of these gives you a health heart back. So that's how you get them back. You got to go around your nether fortresses, you got to break into these chests and hope you find a lifeblood crystal. Cross your fingers, because sometimes an entire nether fortress can't even have one. So that's how you get your 5 hearts back, or if you're on hard, that's how you get 7 hearts back. But let's get out of here before I cook alive in my own juices. Now that we're out of that hellhole, there's one last thing to mention. Even when you are at full hearts, if you try and take a lifeblood crystal now, nothing's going to happen. So you can only ever get back up to the maximum of 10 hearts. Right, so let's talk about that grey orb in the centre, because it doesn't stay grey for very long depending on where you are. Although, I think I'm in a pretty temperate climate right now. I'm in the plains, so things might stay pretty reasonable right now. But there it goes. You just saw an arrow shoot upwards, and the grey orb has turned just a little bit more orange. So as you get hotter, the orb turns orange. As you get colder, the orb turns blue. At the very extremes of those, it turns into a symbol, either a snowflake for freezing, or a flame, as you saw in the last section, for burning hot. So, the aim of the game is to try and keep that orb as grey as possible. That is as middling as you can possibly get. There are a whole bunch of factors that affect temperature, not temperature. Those factors include the time of day, the altitude, the biome temperature, the biome humidity, the season, and the weather. Those are your external factors. But you also have local factors, like the armor you're wearing, the source blocks you're near to, whether you're sprinting, whether you're near some things called some heating coils, whether you're wet, and those are your local factors. So if I jump in this water, we may see a down arrow happen. Yep, there you go. Because water is cooling, or at least large bodies of water are cooling. And if I place some lava, let's just grab some lava, we may see some up arrows happen very quickly. Or not, but I assure you, because we have a technique to look at this stuff, that this is affecting me quite a lot. Let's pick that up and I will show you. So, fortunately, there are some commands with tough as nails, and the one we're going to look at is temp info. If we look at temp info, you will see a whole lot of numbers that don't make a heck of a lot of sense at the moment. Right now, you have equilibrium at the top. Well, you have your target 15 out of 21. I'll explain that in a second. But below that, you have equilibrium. That is your base body temperature. Your base body temperature is plus 12. Your time, that is the time of day. We're heading towards noon. It's plus 6. Your biome temperature, us being in the plains, is plus 2. And our season is plus 2. And our altitude is minus 1. That gives us a target of 20. So what is that 16 out of 20? Well, 16 is where your temperature is at right now. We are at a temperature of 16, and we're heading for 20, which is actually quite warm. And then underneath that, you have the rate. This rate is how fast it's going to take before your next temperature temperature tick goes up. You'll see here in a second once it reaches 1161, any second now, that we went up to 17 of 19. Now, it changed from 20 to 19 because our biome factors have changed at somewhere along the line to give us another -1. But maybe we were doing something before that was giving us plus 20 and that factor is no longer there. Either way, we're still heading towards a target of 20. Means we're trending upward, right? And our rate of how fast we're going towards that is affected by where we are. So the plains biome is kind of humid, so we're actually getting a biome humidity of minus 31, which means that actually the rate would normally with a zero humidity, this is where things get complicated, be at about 1/200, which means it would take longer at 1/200 for our rate to tick up, because this ticking is roughly in sync with the 20 ticks to 1 second rule of Minecraft, right? So the bigger the number on the right, the longer it's going to take for your temperature to change in whatever direction it's going. So if we start sprinting around, we're getting minus 200 to that number on the right, bringing it down to 961, which means we're heating up faster, which makes sense, right? Because you're running around in a hotter environment, so you're heating up quicker. If we put this lava down and go, you'll see that nearby blocks is giving us a massive target temperature of plus 18, which is bringing us up to 35. It does actually cap out at 25. 25 is going to kill you. So we don't really want to stand next to this lava forever, and we're also getting a rate change of minus 240 by standing next to this. So we're heating up very fast, and we have a higher maximum temperature by standing next to this lava. We don't want to be here, because that'll kill us. This is the bad thing about temperature. You'll see we've got a flame now down in the bottom. If I jump in the water, our target maximum has changed to 9, and we are above that, which means that our temperature is trending downward, so we are rapidly losing heat with minus 750 by standing in this water. Very, very good. Very helpful. However, let's go somewhere cold. And we can do that because we have biomes plenty with us in the spotlight. Let's go to ice plains. Our rate is still showing because it's trending somewhere. It's trending upwards. We're getting colder though. We're trending back down. We're trending towards 3. Now if I start sprinting around, you'll notice my sprinting now gives me plus 200 because it's going to take longer for me to cool down while sprinting in a cold environment. Makes sense, right? If we jump into water, we're going to get minus 750 because the cold. It's so cold here. We're going to freeze very, very quickly if by standing in that water. And as it turns to nighttime, you'll see that our time went from -1 in our target area to -2. I know this is a whole lot of information, but this is just to give you an idea of the way that temperature works. I've spent ages with it. I was even bugging A-dubs to death about it today before doing this spotlight, just so that I could get the real nitty-gritty, and I like talking about nitty-gritty, so I'm so sorry. Right, daytime, in the middle of a freezing environment, we're surrounded by mobs. It's a horrible place to be. We want to stay warm though, because we're not going to stay warm for very long. We did just teleport from a very hot environment to a very cold one, so we have some warmth left to spend, but don't think yourself lucky. What do we have at our disposal to heat up? Well, the first most important thing at your disposal is a campfire. A campfire is made with 4 logs of any kind and 3 cobblestone, and it places on the ground just like that. Then you need some sticks. And depending on how lucky you are, right-clicking will spin a stick, and eventually this thing... Oh, keep going. There we go. It's lit up. And we are now being warmed up by the campfire. But being that we're completely butt naked apart from our awesome Minecraft skin, we're probably still cooling down. So let's take a look at that temp info again, just to get an idea of where we're at. We are getting a -20 rate from the nearby blocks, which would be this block here. We're also getting -40 health from the state our health is in. That is, we have lost some health, so that is helping us keep our body temperature a bit longer. But we are trending upward, which means we're getting hotter faster, and that's all thanks to our nearby block giving us +12, our equilibrium giving us +12, but our biome temperature is really making things quite horrible. But we'll end up somewhere around 19, which is toasty, but lovely. So that's where we want to be. If we want to be warmer though, the next early game thing you want to look at is wool. You want to make woolen hood, a woolen jacket, woolen pants, and woolen boots. And these will, of course, help you stay nice and toasty. So we're getting a armor benefit of -100 to the rate. So we're heating up faster, and that's going to give us a target heat of 24, which is actually kind of bad. What's worse is if we find ourselves in a desert, that armor benefit that we have, it's going to really kick our butt. We're getting -100 to the rate, we're heating up quickly, and we're going toward a maximum target of 25. This is not good. We're going to die soon. But what do we do in a desert? If you can make wool to heat up, surely there's an armor you can make to cool down. Oh yes, there is. It's not the most nice armor, but it'll cool you down. Gelled slime helmet, chest piece, leggings, and boots. These will cool you off. We're now getting an armor benefit to our rate of -100. So this is actually, we're still heating up in the chilled armor, but we are getting gelled armor by making a slime ball surrounded by ice cubes. How do you get ice cubes? Well, let's go back to the ice plains. Here we are in the ice plains. And if we break some ice, you'll see that we're getting ice cubes. Not all the ice gives you ice cubes, but you get a fair amount. There we go. Cool. Right, so ice cubes. That's how you get those. So what do you use ice cubes for other than making gelled armor? Well, you can use them to make ice charges. Ice charges are important because ice charges are used for making potions of cold resistance. So you have cold and heat resistance. Let's take a cold resistance potion and a heat resistance potion. Now, with a cold resistance potion, no matter how cold we get, we will not be affected by the problems that come with hypothermia and hypothermia. Hypothermia being that you are so cold that you're dying of the cold, and hyperthermia being so hot that you're dying of heat. Right, so let's get to that point, shall we? Okay, so I'm in the middle of a desert, close to noon, sat right next to a puddle of lava, wearing a full gear of woolen armor. I'm going to die. As you can see, I have hyperthermia. This is what you get when you're way too hot. The longer I stay like this, the more intense it will get. It will actually wear off if it's not bad enough, but my temperature is still raising. So, the longer I stay here, and eventually we will move on to hypothermia too, can see those damage ticks are coming in faster. I will eventually die. It actually gets much, much worse to the point where you will die very quickly. So what can you do? Well, you could jump into some water and hope that it gets cool enough quick enough, but at this stage probably not. So drink a fire resistance potion. Not only will it clear the hypothermia from you, it will stop you from getting more hypothermia. So I can stay here as long as I have this heat resistance potion on. This is how you get through the nether, basically. Gelled slime and heat resistance potions. But you need to jump into some water right now, because if that wears off and you are still over temperature, you will immediately get hypothermia again and very, very quickly die. Especially if you're in an area where your heat is still building up. Because the heat resistance potion doesn't stop you from heating up. It doesn't stop you from getting any hotter. In fact, if we look at temp info again, you will see my target is 24. We're trending to 25, which is the maximum. And our rate is still building up because of everything that's around us. It's getting worse, but we have a heat resistance potion on. All that heat resistance potion is doing is stopping us from getting hypothermia. So we need to get our temperature down quickly. This is the result of what happens when you go too extreme in either of these, and that's how you also can deal with it. You either need to get to a place where you're going to cool down quicker, or you need to, for example, take off this stuff, put on this stuff. Our target is now 14, and we're getting there very, very quickly. So we will cool down very quickly with the setup that we have now. But potions, they're very important. Make sure that you make heat and cold resistance potions. So, with that, we have one more thing left to cover in temperature, and that would be housing. So you probably don't want to just set up campfires everywhere and manage your clothing all the time. There has to be a better way, right? Well, there is. If I make myself a very cute, quick hut. Alright, we have a house. We're now in some plains. This is important. Not really. We have a house. It has 2 rooms, a 5x5 front room and a 5x5 back room. This is important to have a couple of rooms for this demonstration because we're going to be showing off coils. So coils come in 2 flavors, a cooling coil and a heating coil. They do exactly as it's said on the tin. Heating coils heat things up, cooling coils cool things down. But we're going to be taking a look at the cooling coil, which is made with 3 cobblestone and 6 blaze rods. The cooling coil is 3 cobblestone and 6 freeze rods. We'll talk about those in a bit. But the heating coil, simply place it down, get yourself a lever to turn it on, and bam! We suddenly see all these things. These are here because I have a debug mode on, which is showing you where this heating coil is heating things up. You can see that it does successfully go through doors and it fills up all these things, but the moment we go outside, there are no floating fireballs. That's because the heating coil works by finding any blocks in its path from itself which cannot see the sky. So that's how it detects whether you're inside or outside. Very cool, huh? Alright, with coils out of the way, we only have a couple more items to cover under the monstrosity that is temperature. The heating coils that we were making, the cooling coils required frozen rods. Where do they come from? They come from the only mob spawn in this mod. The freeze, the frozen cousin of the blaze. There he is. These guys naturally spawn in frozen plains and frozen mountains and pretty much any other naturally frozen biome that you can find, and they only spawn at night. Killing them will, most of the time, drop a freeze rod. The freeze rod, as described, can be used to make those cooling coils, or broken up into freeze powder, which of course is used as a ice charge to make potions of cold resistance. Yes, indeed. The second thing is there is a way to measure your own temperature without having to resort to commands. Maybe you're on a server, or you just don't want to use cheaty commands. You have the thermometer. The thermometer is really expensive, 4 diamonds and a nether quartz, but it's so useful. If we take this thing, we will see that we're actually in a pretty warm environment. We're in a plains right now. Plains tend to be on the warmer side, but if we go into the dark forest, maybe we will see that the temperature changes. Is that true? Yes, it's trending downward. There it goes. We're now in the grey. The place that you want to be is in the grey. You want to be right there, because if we look at our survival mode, you'll see that our orb is nice and grey right now. Oh, I'm going to die of thirst. Let's get back to creative. But yes, the thermometer tells you what your immediate surroundings are in terms of temperature. You start sprinting, that's also your immediate surroundings, so that gets added to your temperature, and we're back to being warm again, and even warmer now that we're in these plains. So, that leaves the final topic for us to cover. Seasons! So, with seasons coming from Tough as Nails, you do have the traditional spring, summer, autumn and winter, but those are also broken up into 3 constituent parts, that being early spring, mid-spring and late spring, and the same for the others, so you can have the full gamut of experience. So, in order to demonstrate, I'm going to speed things along, once again using another command, but we're going to set the season by picking 10, set season, and then let's go with mid-autumn, because it will probably have the most striking change, hopefully, fingers crossed. There we go. Isn't that awesome? All the trees around us, well, the ones that aren't evergreens, they've gone nice rich brown, and they're starting to die off, because that's what autumn does. And our grass has gone a slightly warmer colour, even though autumn is the colder. It's just because the grass is dying. Just ignore it. But the reason seasons exist, oh, that was a good rhyme, is because it changes the weather and the temperature in the general area. You'll notice that the plains that were once in the warm area on my thermometer are now in the grey area. And if we go into the dark forest again, we'll probably notice that once we stop sprinting around, we fall even colder than we were when we last visited the dark forest. This is because we're in autumn. And autumn is a colder season. If we went to summer, and we will do just that, we will find that the temperature will start to raise again, and the general temperature in the plains will reach a higher temperature. That isn't always the case though. It does depend on a couple of factors in the biomes that are involved when it comes to seasons. And in fact, the plains might not change at all in summer, to be honest. We can, of course, get into the details of that with temp info, but I'll leave that, guys. Leave that to you guys. Wow, this spotlight is taking a while. It's taken its toll. So, the biggest thing that will affect seasons, though, is winter. Let's get to winter. Before we do that, I just want to prove a point. If we make the weather rainy, you'll see we've got rain. It's summer in the middle of the plains. Makes sense. And the dark forest is also rainy. Right? But when we go to winter, you'll see that the plains are temperate enough that it is still raining, but you'll see that the dark forest is actually snowing. It is snowing in the dark forest. It is cold enough, and my thermometer does not lie down there on the action bar, that it is actually quite cold in the dark forest now in winter. Boy, chilly. Brr. So, Winter is more than just getting cold though, and summer is more than just getting hot, but right now in the mod's lifespan, winter is the season with the most effect. What you'll find at winter time, and let's find a patch of dirt, you'll see that while I can plant crops are dying. They've got hydration, they've got open sky, but still they die, and this is an effect of winter. So, early in the game you want to make sure you get all your harvesting done by the end of autumn, and you're stocked up on food for winter. Now, how long does winter last? How long are you going to have to deal with this? Well, each part of a season, so the early, mid and late, each part takes 7 Minecraft days. So you'll have to deal with 21 Minecraft days without your crops being able to grow for a full winter cycle. And they'll all just continue to die off like this. That is until... Hello, creeper. That is, of course, until that you are able to make heating coils. Now, the problem with heating coils, of course, is that once they are in the world, they're not going to do anything. You'll see that this crop has a fireball over it. That's very important. And I'll be right back while I show you why. Alright, and I return, and we have a mock unfinished greenhouse going on, and our crops are all dead. This is important. I'm going to keep them dead to show you a point. You'll remember my description of the way that heating coils worked. Well, they need to not be able to see the sky in order to heat an area. Not being able to see the sky is how it determines that it is heating a room. Problem with glass is that it is able to see the sky, so it doesn't technically count as being in a room. That does not matter for crops. These are all dead though, and when I turn this on, you'll see with the debug command on that these are heating this entire frame of wood because it can't see the sky. It is not, however, providing heat to the crops. But you will see, if I break these dead crops and replace them with fresh ones, that they get covered with heat. This is intentional because, of course, when you have a greenhouse, you want it to have a glass roof. So this was thought about when this problem arose, and your crops will count as heatable areas and they'll pass it on to other heatable areas. Living crops, that is. That's why I kept them dead for a bit, because I wanted to show you the difference. If you let the crops die, it will not be able to path to it. So, we've got this frame under the support heated, and anywhere these fireballs are able to make contact with a crop, it has spread onto the crop. So, there you go. That is how you keep crops alive in winter. And with that, we have finally covered what is in the mod so far. However, looking forward to the future, Adubs has told me that we can look forward to such things as air ventilation, so you'll have to make sure that you go into dark, deep caves wearing ventilators, or you will potentially suffocate due to noxious gases. You will also have to maintain torches. However, do not worry, because torches, while they can burn out, lanterns cannot. So, provide yourself with some lanterns and you will be good to go. Lanterns work just like the torches just now, but torches burn out, and you'll have to replace them every 24 hours or relight them with a flint and steel. And the third thing to look forward to is bedtime. You will not be able to sleep through the night during the early game. Not without getting yourself a potion of dreaming. You will not be able to use your bed to sleep until you have a potion of dreaming. Once you have a potion of dreaming, you'll want to swig that, and then you'll be able to sleep through the night. But until then, you've got to make it through the night by yourself. So, thank you all for watching. Thank you for watching this really cool spotlight. I really hope you take a look at Tough as Nails, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.